The lights went out in São Paulo, and from that very first second, everything went wrong for Lewis Hamilton. Before the race could even settle into rhythm, chaos unfolded. Carlos Sainz tagged Hamilton from behind into turn 1, sending the Ferrari wide. And just as he tried to recover, Franco Colapinto's Alpine clipped the side of his SF25. The impact tore pieces off the floor, and you could see the red car limping down the straight like it had already been through a full-length battle. Hamilton was furious, and who could blame him? What was supposed to be a comeback weekend instantly turned into a survival mission. Inside the cockpit, the frustration was raw. Imagine being hit twice before completing a single sector, losing grip, downforce, and confidence all in seconds. Ferrari's engineers were already seeing the data light up. Hamilton's car had lost close to 40 points of downforce. That's catastrophic in F1 terms. It basically means the car no longer behaves as designed. But the real shock wasn't the damage itself. It came later, when the FIA decided he was entirely to blame. You could feel the disbelief ripple across the paddock. Most saw it as a racing incident, pure and simple. Two drivers fighting for space, contact inevitable, nobody reckless. But the stewards saw it differently. Their decision would soon spark one of the biggest controversies of the season. Still, in that moment, Hamilton didn't know what was coming. He just knew his race was slipping away, with a wounded car and a sense that fairness was already out of reach. Before we get into how the FIA justified that call and why Hamilton and Ferrari were furious, let me ask you something. Do you think that first lap chaos was avoidable or just classic racing? Drop your vote in the comments. Yes, avoidable or no, racing incident. And hey, if you want to keep up with these full breakdowns and behind-the-scenes reactions, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. We're pushing for 2,000 subscribers, and your support really makes the difference. Because what came next? That's where the real storm began. When the FIA handed down its decision, it felt like a punch to the gut. Not just for Hamilton and Ferrari, but for anyone who's been following the ongoing debate about stewarding consistency in Formula One. The verdict? A 5-second time penalty, with the stewards declaring Hamilton fully responsible for the collision with Colapinto. To most fans, that explanation sounded detached from reality. Onboard footage showed a chain reaction. Sainz's hit pushed Hamilton offline. Colapinto closed the gap, and the two made light contact in the scramble. It was messy, sure, but intentional? Hardly. Ferrari engineers were quick to reveal the full picture. After the double contact, Hamilton's floor was badly damaged, costing him nearly 40 points of downforce, basically turning his car into an unbalanced nightmare. He was just trying to keep it on track, not attack. Yet, somehow, the FIA's interpretation ignored that entire context. Their written justification cited failure to leave sufficient space, reducing the normal 10-second penalty to 5 due to mitigating factors. But that cold, bureaucratic tone made it even worse. To Hamilton, it didn't feel like justice. It felt like another example of the FIA enforcing rules without truly understanding the circumstances. And his response came fast. Over team radio, his frustration boiled over with that now infamous message. These guys are a complete joke. Harsh? Maybe. But it was the raw voice of a driver who's had enough. 2 races earlier in Mexico, he'd been penalised for a nearly identical situation while others escaped untouched. To him, Brazil wasn't just about one bad call. It was about the pattern, the inconsistency, the lack of transparency, the feeling that penalties depend on who's in the car, not what actually happened on track. As the replay circulated online, fans split into camps. Some argued that rules are rules. If you cause contact, you take the hit. But most saw it differently. They saw a champion being penalised for surviving chaos that wasn't of his making. And the tension only grew when team radio snippets surfaced, showing how shocked Ferrari was in real time. You could hear the disbelief in the engineers' voices. 5 seconds? For what? And that's what made it sting. Because beyond the data, the damage, and the decision, there was a deeper problem. A lack of trust in how the FIA applies its own standards. For a sport built on precision, that inconsistency cuts deep. Before we jump into how Ferrari boss Fred Vasseur fired back, and trust me, he didn't hold back, I want to hear from you. Do you think the stewards were right to penalise Hamilton? Hit the comments with too harsh or fair call. And if you enjoy these insider breakdowns where we go beyond the headlines, subscribe and enable notifications. Your subscription helps us hit that 2,000 mark and keeps this coverage going strong. Because next, things went from diplomatic to downright explosive. Fred Vasseur is not the kind of team boss who loses his cool in public. He's methodical, measured, and rarely speaks without purpose. But after the Brazilian Grand Prix, even he couldn't hide his frustration. Standing before the media, his tone was calm, but the message was unmistakable. Something is deeply wrong with how Formula One is being officiated. And when a figure as experienced and composed as Vasseur starts choosing his words carefully, you know the situation has gone too far. He began with what sounded like a diplomatic acknowledgement. 2 incidents are too many. On the surface, it seemed like a routine reflection on a rough weekend. But anyone who knows Vasseur's communication style could tell there was a deeper meaning. Between the lines, he was saying exactly what Hamilton had shouted over the radio, just in a way only a team principal could. His frustration wasn't only about the penalty. It was about the FIA's complete disregard for context. A driver hit from behind, clipped again, and somehow blamed entirely. That's not logic. That's bureaucracy gone wrong. Vasseur knows the cost of moments like this. Ferrari's season has already been defined by mechanical failures, strategic missteps, and near misses. But nothing stings more than losing points because of an avoidable decision from race control. Behind closed doors, sources close to Maranello revealed that Vasseur and Hamilton shared the same sentiment. The FIA's standards have become unpredictable. One weekend, they're lenient. The next, ruthless. Teams can't adapt when the rulebook seems to change with every stewarding panel. And what really frustrated Vasseur was the lack of dialogue. Decisions that directly shape races are often made without any meaningful exchange between the FIA and teams. He reportedly raised that very point internally after the race, saying that these split-second rulings should never ignore context, especially when they affect the integrity of the championship fight. For Ferrari, every point counts. Losing them to inconsistent officiating isn't just disappointing, it's infuriating. Still, Vasseur didn't throw accusations blindly. His criticism was sharp but calculated. "We can't have different interpretations every weekend," he told one reporter, and that single line echoed across the paddock. Drivers, engineers, and fans understood exactly what he meant. Formula One isn't just about speed, it's about fairness. If that balance disappears, the competition itself starts to lose credibility. And coming from Ferrari's team boss, those words carried weight. This wasn't an emotional outburst, it was a warning shot. Hamilton, for his part, appreciated the support. His post-race interviews were surprisingly calm, his frustration now channeled into composure. He admitted the situation was tough, but emphasized that both he and the team would keep fighting. That public unity between Hamilton and Vasseur sent a clear message. Ferrari is standing together. They won't stay silent when decisions feel arbitrary. And that solidarity sparked something bigger. Suddenly, this wasn't just about one penalty in Brazil. It was about a growing sense across the paddock that the FIA is losing control of its own rule enforcement. And when 2 of the sport's most respected figures, a 7-time world champion and the boss of Ferrari, are both openly questioning your consistency, it's impossible to ignore. So now I want to hear from you. Do you think Vasseur was right to go public with his frustration? Or should team bosses handle these issues privately, behind closed doors? Drop your opinion in the comments. I'll feature some of your takes in the next video. And if you support honest coverage that doesn't shy away from tough questions, hit that subscribe button and help us reach our goal of 2,000 subscribers. Because up next, the fallout spreads across the paddock, and the entire F1 world starts taking sides. Once Vasseur's comments hit the airwaves, the story exploded. Suddenly, it wasn't just Ferrari and Hamilton questioning the FIA. The entire paddock was buzzing. Drivers from other teams, some off the record, quietly admitted they shared Hamilton's frustration. They said what many fans had been thinking for months. The FIA's decision-making feels random. 1 week, an aggressive overtake goes unpunished. The next, a light touch gets a penalty. The pattern doesn't make sense anymore, and Brazil felt like the breaking point. Inside the garages, engineers and strategists were venting too. A senior source told one reporter that teams are tired of adjusting strategies to unwritten rules that seem to shift from race to race. The problem isn't the regulations, it's how they're applied. Everyone knows Formula One is built on fine margins, but when those margins are being judged inconsistently, the sport risks losing its fairness. And if there's one thing fans can't stand, it's when results feel influenced by anything other than performance on track. Online, the reaction was fierce. Social media feeds filled with clips of the first lap chaos, slowed down frame by frame, as fans debated whether Hamilton really deserved the penalty. Hashtags like FIA inconsistency and justice for Hamilton trended for hours. Ferrari fans were livid, but even supporters of rival teams admitted the call felt harsh. One common comment summed it up perfectly. If that's a penalty, half the grid should have been punished this season. The fallout even reached the drivers' briefing before the next race weekend. Multiple sources claimed there was visible tension between the stewards' representatives and several senior drivers. Some reportedly demanded more transparency, a clearer explanation of how decisions are made and why similar incidents get treated differently. That kind of internal pressure rarely becomes public, but Brazil changed the tone completely. It wasn't just another bad weekend, it was a warning shot from the drivers themselves. And while the FIA hasn't issued a direct response yet, insiders say there's growing concern about how this perception of inconsistency could damage the sport's credibility, especially with Ferrari and Hamilton leading the criticism. Because once trust in the system starts to crumble, it's not just one team that suffers, it's Formula One as a whole. Let's put it to you. Do you think the FIA is losing control of its own rule enforcement? Drop a yes or no in the comments and tell me what you'd change to fix it. And if you want deeper breakdowns from inside the paddock, make sure you're subscribed with the notification bell on. We're closing in on that 2,000 subscriber goal, and your support makes all the difference. Because in the final part, we're diving into what happens next and whether this controversy could actually push Formula One toward long overdue reform. Now that the dust is settling, the real question is what happens next. The FIA is under growing pressure to address the controversy, not just from Ferrari and Hamilton, but from across the paddock. Will they admit the inconsistency and take steps to fix it? Or will they double down and defend their call, even as the criticism gets louder? That's the crossroads Formula One finds itself at right now. Accountability or defiance. Hamilton, as always, has chosen composure. His final words after Brazil said it all. It's a challenge, but I'll rise again. That's not a driver sulking. That's a champion who knows the long game. He's not demanding special treatment, he's demanding fairness. And Fred Vasseur, he's right there beside him. The Ferrari boss isn't just protecting his driver. He's defending the integrity of competition itself. Together they've drawn a line in the sand. And that unity has shifted the conversation from one penalty to a bigger, deeper issue. If this moment pushes the FIA to look in the mirror and admit something's off, Brazil could mark a turning point. But if nothing changes, the tension we saw here might only be the beginning of an even bigger storm. The credibility of stewarding, the trust between teams and officials, and the reputation of Formula One itself all hang in the balance. So what do you think? Is this the start of real reform, or just another weekend controversy that'll fade away? Drop your answer in the comments. Yes, it's a reckoning, or no, just another drama. And if you want to know how this plays out in the coming races, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and join our community here at Fast News F1. Your support helps us reach our goal of 2,000 subscribers and keeps this coverage coming every race weekend. Because if Brazil taught us anything, it's that Formula One's biggest battles aren't always fought on track.